all for being here. I'd like to call this Tuesday, March 11th business meeting to order. Elizabeth, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Carrie, would you remind us of our goals and priorities?
I would be happy to. It's School District 44. We have four main goals. Goal number one, each student will improve academically each year. Goal number two, our schools will be inclusive and welcoming. Number three, we will strengthen family and community engagement and support partnerships for student learning. And number four, we will maintain and improve our facilities to meet the current and future needs of our students, staff, and community.
Thank you very much. Any revisions to the agenda? Seeing none. Perfect. Public comment. This is the appropriate place to make comments about an item not on the agenda but within the board's jurisdiction. Each action item on the agenda has its own public comment period. In order to protect individual rights of privacy, avoid comments that identify student or staff members. Additionally, public comment cannot be used in order to make comments regarding contested cases, grievances, or legal proceedings. Individuals with these sorts of complaints should follow the Uniform Complaint Protocol, Policy 1700. Conflict in any organization is inevitable, and the district desires to resolve them in a productive and timely manner at the lowest level possible. Retaliation against complainants is prohibited by Whitefish School District Policy 3225. Due to open meeting laws, the board cannot respond in any way to comments made during the public comment period. The opportunity for public comment on participation during the school board meeting is provided by attending in person. Zoom is for listening only. Thank you. And we do have a few public comments tonight. Carrie, do you want to lead us off?
Sure. Greetings, everyone.
Sorry, I've made you 2 minutes and Quincy will be our timer.
Okay. You ready?
I'll start when you start.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. As you know, we hosted the Western A Boys and Girls Divisional Basketball Tournament this past Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Just wanted to say a few words about that. The event was exceptionally successful across many different dimensions. The value and benefit of teamwork cannot be overstated. It's important to acknowledge so many aspects, and I just wanted to take that this time to do that. Acknowledgements to the athletes and coaches who competed and showcased their talents and skills, to the cheerleaders and bands who added a fun spirit and electricity to the air, to the thousands of fans who brought energy, excitement, and a roar that knocked the dust off the rafters. To the area businesses who benefited from the massive influx of people into the community and across the valley for their support. To the many workers who committed their time and effort to ensure that we were able to put our best foot forward as a hosting community. And to the many volunteers who helped the tournament run like a well-oiled machine. I'd like to especially acknowledge our custodial team for their relentless efforts to clean and reset the facility throughout the event and until the wee hours of the morning every night, literally 4 a.m, getting things reset the next day. So they put our best foot forward. And finally, I would like to commend Eric Harris, Activities Director, for a job well done. He put in countless hours organizing, planning, and preparing for this major event, and that next level commitment towards excellence certainly paid dividends. So take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to each and every person involved. The incredible event we put together was a result of everyone's hard work and dedication. I know we're all feeling exhausted after the long hours and intense effort, but we should all be incredibly proud of the high quality tournament that we were able to deliver. This event was a true testament to the teamwork, commitment, and sheer grit that defines Bulldog Nation. Thank you to all.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary. Good job.
It's a good follow-up. It's about the gym. I recently was able to attend the speech and debate national qualifications event. While I was waiting for awards to happen, I looked around the gym and was astonished to find there's no state championship flag for speech and debate. All their stuff burnt up in a bus fire this year and they went on to win states. I thought I should email somebody and find out, when is our banner going up? I emailed a couple of individuals. A few weeks went by, I didn't hear anything. I sent another email. One individual did get back to me and said that they were very thankful to the school for all of the support that speech and debate has been given over the years, and thankful for the space they are allowed to have in the trophy area, and was reminded of the fact that the appropriate place to display the speech and debate state championship banner was in the library because they used to practice there. This is absurd. I called the other top 5 and Valley High Schools, top 5 US News and World Report, to ask them, what do you do with your state champ speech and debate banners? Everyone from Bozeman #1, Glacier #3, Flathead #17, Columbia Falls #27 displays those banners proudly in their gymnasiums alongside their sport wins. That's amazing. What if these thousands of people that just visited the Valley were able to see the speech and debate team were state champions? What about baccalaureate and graduation? Shouldn't those people get to come and see that we've got a state champ this year? Spring sports are only starting. However, so far, that's all we got this year for state champs. So there's kind of 2 ways to look at this. One, just go ahead and put the banner out. Why not celebrate anybody in the spirit of inclusivity in the same space? Or 2, let's put everybody's banner where they practice. This means that in the gym, we can have basketball and volleyball. I stand here alone today, but I promise you I am not alone. I've got a lot of parents, certainly all of those students that work so hard that would love to be able to look at those accolades as they graduate and anytime they go into the gym. The only one true public place. I really doubt anyone in town this past weekend went to the library. That's all.
It's a big thing from the University of Law. So much. Fine.
Good evening, all. All right, well, I'm kind of all over the place with this, because I had a kind of a last minute phone call from someone in another district dealing with this issue, and my head is I'm a bit verklempt, as my people say, but I'm gonna try. Okay. So this is a call to action for this school board, you esteemed members of the school board. Listening to your mission and knowing that you really do honor that. We need to make sure that this district and others are indeed a welcome and safe space for all of our students. And I just want to say that our LGBTQI plus students, in particular our trans students, are under attack by the evangelicals, that's what I call them in Helena. And I will give you 2 examples. There are many more, but 2 examples of pending legislation working their way through the processes from the House to the Senate and then vice versa. One is Senate Bill 525, which deals with school chaplains and having school chaplains. Really, if it comes down to a matter of money, school chaplains will be replacing our guidance counselors that we know we don't have nearly enough to serve the needs of the students. And the school chaplain requirement is to be 18 years old and of good moral character. That's it. And these people can provide guidance to our vulnerable youth who are at greater risk of suicide than the general population. It's bizarre to me, but anyway, that's working its way through, and that's something of great concern. And the representative of the school guidance counselors and others have given testimony and all that, but I just wanted to just put it on record locally that that's a huge concern. And then House Bill 471. House Bill 471 deals with instruction, okay? Specifically, the human sexuality instruction. And what's interesting about that bill is that as of now, because I looked at your policy, which you have to have based on the law, there's that 48-hour opt-out procedure. But if 471 were to pass,
10 seconds, sorry, yeah.
sorry, you would then, it then becomes an opt-in for just the gender identity portion of that, which singles out again, the trans youth and it puts you up for increased liability. Lucy, I think I got 73,000, the cost that you pay. That might be wrong. I don't- how much? 173,000. Well, you can expect that probably to rise if there are lawsuits. It's just a whole mess. And I'm just asking you to, maybe you could, as a school board, maybe, craft a letter. I know that you're represented by the School Board Association. Lance is very vocal. And I know that the head of the Montana administrators comes and gives testimony too, but I'm just really asking you on behalf of the students who have no voice, please. So we don't have a tragedy like I've experienced. And yeah, let's just not have, if we can do something as a district to protect also the educators and the guidance from liability, but mostly for the students, please do what you can do. That's all that I ask. Thanks for listening. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other public comment? Thanks, everybody. Any correspondence? I don't think we have anything. Approval of minutes. Moved by Chrissy, seconded by Alyssa, all in favor? That's everybody. Thank you. There's sadly no student trustee reports. We'll move on to a WEA report.
Hi, everybody. We should acknowledge that Mr. Dunker did win first place in Poetry Out Loud.
Oh,
So, yeah, so that's pretty exciting. So even though he's not here, we should definitely celebrate him. I'm just gonna keep this pretty brief. We're moving into negotiations on our IBB process. We've had 2 meetings and we have our 3rd meeting coming up here on Thursday. Things are going pretty smoothly with that process. And teachers were really appreciative of those extra 2 days that they really missed at Christmas break. But they've recovered from missing them at Christmas break, and they were really nice to see those at the beginning of March. And there's a lot of people with some nice tans. So everybody's in pretty good spirits moving towards a full spring break. So looking forward to finishing up at BB. I'll see you guys shortly. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should start working, figuring out a way to work that to the calendar a little bit more. WCEA. Don't not call it out. Okay. All right, on to our discussion and action items. 23-24 audit results. When you're ready. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. The district's financial audit for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2024, conducted by Denning, Downey and Associates in Kalispell, a CPA firm in Kalispell, has been completed and submitted to the Department of Administration and OPI. The auditors issued an unmodified opinion, which is the best possible, on the financial statements, indicating that the financials are free of material misstatements. In addition, the audit of federal programs also resulted in an unmodified opinion. You saw the draft of the audit report attached to your agenda. It still has the draft word across it because at the time when this agenda had to go public, I didn't have the clean version from the auditors yet, but the clean version is now posted on the website. I always like to look, my favorite pages are the pages of the financial statements, which are PDF pages 15 to 22. And
if anybody has any questions about those, I'll be more than happy to answer them. The one number, if I were to just say, let's look at one number, it would be what's called the net position of the school district on page 15. And that is really the difference between our assets and our liabilities. And that is a very healthy number at just under $17 million. The net position did decrease somewhat compared to last year, but it was mainly due to a depreciation of capital assets, not because we have less in cash or more in liabilities. So I was very happy with that. And I guess the auditors were happy with us too, and it's always a teamwork. So, any questions?
As usual, good job. Thanks for your
Yeah,
team for
Thank you.
keeping things so clean and
We never worry about the audit with you in charge.
You know, I'm always a little bit worried. You have to.
Because you're conscientious.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So like we said, this audit goes back to our great bond rating that we just experienced with, the high school bond expansion, right? Like, so getting these good audit reports helps on the other end, which are things that you don't always realize come full circle until it actually happens and you're listening to all the meetings happening and they look at these audit reports and go back and listen to these results or look at these results. So to see it come full circle is really great. And all of them were later, so thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have an admirer.
You should. Give many. Are we ready? But, sorry, I didn't want to stop. Awesome. Consideration of WEA request to extend the deadline contained in Appendix D of the CBA. Adrian.
All right, hello again. Just would like to make a formal request from the school trustees here to consider an extension for our Appendix D, which is our retirement bonus for our teachers. And specifically, in light of an unprecedented situation in our society right now, where there's a lot of unknowns. There's just a slight variation here. I think originally had requested April 15th, given that that date had 1 week buffer based on what the federal government was saying, like we should have all decisions made for federal employees by April 7th, but in case there was any extension, but in this, it went to the board agenda as the 31st. So just want to make a little bit of a note of that. But our members would very much appreciate consideration of a memorandum of agreement for this topic to just extend that retirement bonus deadline out for any staff members that may have in their households a federal employee and may be facing making a very big decision. We would like to see our members retire with joy in our hearts and not under duress. So this is a very different ask than you would normally see. But I would like that, liken this to the pandemic, where it's very unprecedented times and we don't have enough answers. And on that, we do have a little bit of other member comments.
Well,
If you'd like, do you want me to stay?
no, you need to stay first.
Stay
for a
first,
little
okay.
bit longer.
Okay.
Sorry. Are there any clarifying questions for Adrian?
yes.
Okay,
Specifically, what is it that is being asked here? What are we extending their? What are we
Yeah,
extending?
what is the retirement bonus? Like, what is-
typically Appendix D has 2 options. And the deadline is typically March 1st, that you would turn in all of your paperwork for your intent to retire in
This
the
is if you're
spring.
intending to retire.
Yes, so what we're asking is for potentially an extension, if you would consider at least to the 31st, the original ask was to April 15th to that kind of tax day. Just an extension for this one school year,
For them to
Given-
decide later if they want to retire.
just given that there may be
Okay.
impacts to families across the area.
And so can you explain what the bonus is for people who don't know appendix D, it's like you do?
Yes, I
In
can.
your brain?
Yeah, I can. I can sort of. So there's two options. There's an option for staff members that were hired before 2004. And that is option A. And then any teachers hired after 2004 fall under option B. Option A has a whole mathematical formula that we don't probably need to discuss. But option B is tied to your bank of sick time. And so a teacher that's ready to retire, they've worked for more than 10 years, they've got X amount of days in their bank, then they can apply for that retirement bonus. And given however many days they can have up to 135. Then they're paid out at a certain percentage for their retirement bonus. And so but in the language, it's quite strict. And if someone were to apply for the retirement bonus and then they're essentially resigning. And so that's the pickle that we're in. And given that we don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks, potentially 4 to 6 weeks, just a little bit of an extra buffer for our members just this school year, which would entail us drafting a memorandum of agreement for our CBA.
So the bonus, so in the wording of the current bonus language of appendix D, is there anything that states in there extenuating circumstances? Or like this can be extended due to extenuating circumstances or any, like sometimes I know like under.
Yeah, like discretionary.
Yeah, like is there anything that says anything like that in there?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
It's really been something that we try to adhere to as much as possible. And to my knowledge, not being in the presidential role when this occurred, there were some extenuating circumstances during the pandemic where there were some people that were allowed to apply for their retirement bonus at that time, but I was not acting president at that time. So that's just information I've been given. But from just my understanding of what's going on right now, I think that's the closest unprecedented time would be 2020.
Any other clarifying questions?
I guess I'll ask, because it was, what is the March 31st, like versus an April 7th or the deadline? How was that number reached? The March 31st?
I believe my understanding is that number was reached between my field representative and Bia Caliber.
And one more. So our recommended act, based on what our recommended action, assuming that we agree to do this, the MOA would follow. Is that?
That's my
This is
understanding,
not
yes.
an MOA.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes, we have not drafted an MOA.
To allow the MOA. Okay, no, we know that. Thank you.
And just say that if this were approved, it's the term that's being approved.
Okay.
The MOA would just capture that within the MOA and would not need to be brought back.
Oh,
Okay.
if we agree to this.
Yeah, like typically the MOAs are brought, so the
Right.
MOAs come to the board draft, and this is like, the MOAs kind of like already drafted.
Yeah, that's right.
This is, yeah, the MOA would come, we've already approved it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, we would, board chair myself, that the president sign the MOA if it were approved.
I had the same question about the date, so that if, given that's the language in the request, if we did approve it, can we just modify the request? Is that all right, or how does that work, since that was already discussed with the
Well, I would say it was between Bia and the union representative.
Okay.
So it was, those two came to that term.
Okay,
I guess that's.
so we'd have to
more
stick with the
discussion.
31st.
It's kind of more
Okay,
discussion,
that's what I
maybe,
just
not
was curious.
question.
Clarifying. Okay,
I don't know.
I didn't know if it was.
I have a question, but it's not clear.
Okay.
Thank you. Clear. Manager, any request is provided to you and amended, just like any.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
In terms of process, if that's what you're asking.
That's what
Yes,
I thought.
yes, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other clarifying questions?
Can I
It's
ask-
not clarifying.
Okay, I asked one more clarifying question for what she said here, sorry.
Yeah.
Given it, like you said, you are your union president, have you spoken to other union in our area, region about how they're handling this? Because I would imagine this is a.
I haven't personally, but that's where our field representative for this part of the state, yeah,
Gotcha.
definitely did that legwork for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Be seated?
You may. be
Okay,
seated.
thank you.
Might have to- no,
Just making
might
sure.
not be off the hook.
That's okay.
Is there any public comment on that?
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Malfeld for those of you who I don't know, but I know most of you, but I'm the one who made the initial request, and I just want to let you know I didn't come to this point without, thinking about retirement. I have external reasons for wanting retirement, but at this moment, it didn't feel like a good time to make a decision. So I talked to Dave and Lucy earlier, and then I did write you guys a letter maybe like a week or so ago, so just wanted to say that was me. So I'm requesting an extension for the retirement bonus application due to the potential impending impacts of a federal government reduction in force. I ask for additional time to consider this important decision. And so the reorganization plan is actually until April 15th. So that's what my husband said. So that you guys can probably look that up, but that's from the Office of Personnel Management. And so I just wanted to let you know that this was unforeseen and unexpected, and I appreciate the additional time. So, yeah. Do you guys have questions? Or?
Thank you.
No.
Okay, thank you so much. I think what is the question?
I have a question, I assume I know the answer to, Lucy, there's no difference in fiscal impact in if we allow this or do not, is that?
Well, there is always a risk.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a significant.
I can't answer that because I don't know how many more people would come
Right.
forward and say, we want to leave now.
Would it be in the realm of affecting IBB discussion?
Yes,
Okay,
it could
thank you.
be. If more people come forward after we, after we open the floodgates, yes, yes. Yes.
I mean, I look at it, I do think these are unprecedented times for a lot of people, and I try and put myself in someone's position or, and I even look at it, I understand that we have to have a set period of time, we just can't open it up whole hog, but it also doesn't make a lot of sense to open it up for someone to then potentially lose their job 2 weeks after, if the federal government's deadline is the 15th. It just seems to me, I understand that would open it up for 2 more weeks and that could put at risk more people taking advantage of it, but the date of March 31st, I understand like making a set time, like this is the month you can do it. But it seems to defeat the purpose of the reason why we're being asked to do it in the first place.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
I would say that if we're gonna do it, then do it so it counts. What's the, you know what I mean?
Well, we're doing it
Or
for
can
an
you capture
extenuating
it?
circumstance, and the circumstance has a set date of April 15th. Like it's this really weird thing where you actually have a set date of when the circumstance will end, which is April 5th. This just seems like an arbitrary number, and I understand the idea of keeping it tight and closed so a bunch of people don't say, oh, I suddenly want to retire, which I have a hard time understanding that too. I mean, I think people have an idea, but I know it can change. Anyways, I just think it seems like if we have a set day for this extenuating circumstance where it's unprecedented, but it has a set end date on April 15th, it makes sense to end at April 15th.
I think that if you if it's, you get 25% of 60 days of your sick leave, is that right?
You can have more than 60 days in your bank,
135.
up to
135.
135
Why did I thought, okay, so you have up to 100, and then you get 25% of that
at your daily rate,
at your daily rate, and your, like, the top daily rate is 500,
just under 500 a day.
so. I'm just trying to think, so as far as the bonus goes, if people are walking away from something, you know, what are they walking away from? As far as the monetary amount for not working. You know, I mean, that's the choice that I think we're asking them. So that's,
It's tricky, again, putting myself in their shoes, because I do feel like there's that side that it's monetary, there's also a little bit of principle. Like, it's sort of like, this is my money, and I worked for it for so many years, so it could be $1. And it's just on principle of like, I feel like this is mine, yeah, I don't know if that's, you know, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying that it is something that feels. If you did everything right and you planned it all, and then there's a wild thing happening that's out of any of our control. And everything in this world right now feels really hard, I think, for a lot of people.
I also think that the other thing I would say, as we think of everything being out of control, I don't know if we can believe that April 15th is the end day.
Right, I think that would be
The tariff was supposed to start, and then the tariff didn't start,
Right.
and now the tariff's 25%, and now it's 50% on something, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can believe that April 15th is really the day, yeah, and it might be June 1st, and so it could be a consistently moving target, and I think that as the board, we have to be really careful, and we have to remember what our role is when we sit up here. And that's really, really hard, because we are personally invested in this community and in all of these people. But when we sit here and we look at the black and white of the papers and the policies that we're here to think about, we have to remember what we're here to do. And so I just think that's really an important piece of this conversation.
I agree, I think that's why if we extend it for this one time, for this very specific circumstance. Then it's done. It's the state, and we're not gonna revisit this. That's where I would be comfortable supporting, because I agree, it could, unfortunately, there's so much unpredictability, but yeah, that's what I would be comfortable with.
Let me make sure I'm clear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And what Elizabeth.
Yeah.
That you support extending it to April 15th and keeping it.
Yeah.
Which I think would require more than. That would require.
Oh, for ongoing years, yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
so
no,
there's
no,
not just for this year.
Okay.
Yeah, just this year, yeah, but not continuing then. If April 15th comes and it's still uncertain, we're not,
I see.
I feel comfortable not
Alright,
revisiting
fair
the topic at that point in time, so that it doesn't have to
Yeah.
continue.
I just think everything seems to always be
Everything is
a
done.
moving
right.
target in this administration that we talked about.
Because
Is April
eventually we have to
15th
make
effect-
plans. and
Does April 15th affect contract?
That's
Well,
what.
everything's gonna
contracts
affect,
out.
everything's gonna affect hiring, right, at this point in time.
Exactly, well,
Right.
is it going to affect? I'm
Right.
trying to think of the date we have to offer. That's June, isn't it?
To a teacher.
June. Here's, you know, one of the things I was gonna say is related to that is that the March 1st deadline, I think, is based on 2 reasons. One, it's financial plan, budgetary plan. That's one thing. that's been fun. Your question related to hire is the other. March 1st is there because you can get started on the hiring process. As quickly as you can to hire the most qualified candidates for the positions. You know, I think those are the primary reasons for that to be, as well as the first one's budgetary, I think the other one is higher.
That's my concern is that that's 31 or if as proposed 45 days. Of loss of potentially not being able to find. You know, that person going to work for someone else that we could have potentially pulled in, that's a big concern.
I have a question too, in the past, when, I know we've had instances where we've changed for different reasons, potentially of extending a retirement offer, or how many people oftentimes, when something like that's off, have we have any history of saying, okay, well, we did that and 5 more people decide to retire much later than we anticipated?
So I can only speak to the last 6 years
Yeah.
that I've been here, and we in spring of 2019 we offered retirement bonus to, prior to March 1, to save money in the budget. That was in spring of 2019. And that was the only time. So we did not have any late requests for retirements.
Mercy,
I've been one.
was that it? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
What did you say?
Oh, I was just had a question. Darcy,
Yes. Go ahead.
okay. Would it be worthwhile to check in, or maybe you already have, with the other school boards or parents with names? Well, you talked about field things, but, see if we were all on the same page, to back to hiring, and that nobody
Yeah, I think that we have to probably make a decision, because if we're not, we're just delaying it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if we can wait it, because then not it's next week. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, but I think that should probably stay out. Because yeah, a lot of other places people are doing it too, then it would.
Yeah, I think I already have this.
Yeah, the same thing.
April 7th, or 15th.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, have we had other, is this the only person who has requested this because of having a federal employee in the family, or have there been several others?
We have no other specific request. The request before you is our understanding, it's a request from WEA.
Mhm.
So because it has to be open for everybody, right?
Right.
A singular thing, just like
But I would think if there were other people who were in similar situations, they would have also been part of this request.
I just have a hard time believing that it's gonna open the floodgates.
I do too.
I guess is where I think that giving 2 weeks further on this and its risk of suddenly having to find 15 new, I just find it very unlikely, and I know we can't. And that's just my feeling on it, just in a professional world, people kind of know if they're going to be making a life decision like that, and it's not by extending. I don't think it's by extending a bonus for 2 weeks. I just don't see it.
We're talking 4 weeks.
Right, I'm sorry,
6.
2 weeks from this,
Right.
from this contract.
right.
Cause the argument is, if we move this 2 weeks, let's say we move it 2 weeks beyond the 31st to the 15th. Is it gonna open the floodgates and put us in a position of having to find bunch of, I don't see it.
My larger concern is I wonder if it would require, I wonder if the WA is requesting this date, if we can.
That's what I asked, that's what I was asking. clarifying. It is that it can't be
It can, oh, I'm sorry.
this week.
If
That's how I
if we-
interpreted his answer was that, yeah,
we can decide
just like any request we can amend it, if we approve it, like approve with amended.
that they would have to be amended.
That's how I interpreted what you said, maybe stop me if I'm incorrect in what you said earlier. That's how I understood.
I guess the phrase that is, it's my understanding, this was the request of WEA. If they're presenting a different request, you want to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they came, this is their request, and they came with the date of March 31st.
If there's presenting a different court request, that's one for consideration.
But it didn't sound like that in the discussion. It sounded like the original request was April 15th. And Bia and the union rep decided on March 3rd. Unless I misinterpreted what was said, it sounded like they decided upon that. And why did they decide upon that date?
Can we go back up to the?
Yeah, Adrian can talk.
Yeah.
Back up.
Here we are.
So you would like me to clarify where that date came from?
Yes,
Right.
Okay. There was an original request by an individual staff member. Then the next step was there was an ask from me personally in my weekly meetings with Mr. Means. And in that time, we originally discussed looking at those April dates, potentially having that information that those numbers could come in by or somewhere between the 7th and the 15th. At that point, then the next few layers of communication, I had no part in. It was our field rep, Tom Burgess, went directly to Bia and have those conversations. So I think because there weren't potentially enough clarifying conversations to see what had already been discussed, they kind of looked at what sounds like a decent date. But specifically, if possible, the request would be April 15th.
I guess, do we have to have a new written request to add, if that's what we want to
No,
consider?
any board member could ask to be amended
Okay,
as a motion. That would pass in and of itself and then this.
So one of the concerns I have in general, and I'm just thinking as, you know, in the past, people have come and said, can I get an extension? And we've said no. And we haven't done this in the past. And so,
Even during COVID, right?
right, even during COVID, I mean, there's been extenuating circumstances in the past where this has not risen to this level and we haven't done this. And so fundamentally, this is a challenge for me. Because this isn't the first time, and I don't think it'll be the last time that we come up with hardships and things don't go as anticipated, and I just wanna make sure we aren't setting precedent, and I wanna make sure that we're not doing things because of, for the wrong reasons. I think it's just a real important line that we're minding.
and I look at it, I mean, I think, you know, Whitefish, just looking at the community, because and I look at it too in a similar, the press that you say, well, there's this intertwined school district and community, and Whitefish, I mean, it was a logging community. And thus has become a huge Forest Service community, and I think one of the huge, I mean, my neighbor, I can think of 4 of my neighbors work for the Forest Service, and I think it hits Whitefish a little bit hard in this way, because we do have a lot, it'd be like, I don't know, if you live in California and the tech industry took a huge hit, you'd say, this is a huge part of the livelihood of California, is this Silicon Valley, and I look at Whitefish and I think of federal jobs and Forest Service workers, fire, I mean, the list goes on, and I just think every one of us could probably have a very good friend or someone in the community we know well, where this impacts them directly. And so as far as like this circumstance, because I agree, I think that it could open the door for, but this to me is like an earth moving circumstance in a lot of ways, is how I look at it. And so that's where I kind of feel, I think where I'm feeling from it is to be supportive of a community that is also very supportive of us, but also one of our mainstay, employers is doing these massive layoffs. And that's how I I think is where I'm going with it as far as the extenuating circumstances. I see this one as a really big one, and I wasn't here for COVID, as we know. But, I would have looked at that probably too as like, okay, this is like, or what does this mean? But I wasn't here, I'm not privy to that, but I look at this as just, this is a core professional community in this town and this district. And I have a really hard, I just think it could be, it's a very life-changing time, and it's, can we help in that way? Is kind of where I'm coming from, but I totally get what you're saying.
I wonder though, too, in the past when it's come up, if it's been one individual, I mean, so tonight we know Amy sure has requested, but it's WAEA that's requesting. Somebody who has a sudden illness in their family and they need to thing. This is like you said, it was a community-wide issue. Like COVID could have been a community-wide issue, depending on what the question is. And if it's limited to a finite timeline, like this year, April 15th, this year only. I don't think it sets a precedent as much as other things would. And we don't, crystal ball, to know. Look at Kalispell and all the teachers and staff that got to lay off. Which doesn't have anything to do with retirement, but just things change, and this is something changed in our country. And we do have national park, fire, national forest. Yeah, the SBA and fishing game, probably the water people.
I mean, you can, like, there's just so many, yeah. But
I respect the
Yeah, I really
concept
get
of the
it.
precedent though, for sure, yes.
is it, it can open the can.
Yes, absolutely, and there's a reason we have a CBA with specific dates, absolutely.
I would like to make a motion that we approve that item as presented. But I would like to amend it to an April 15th.
So first, you amend it to April.
Amend it to
right?
April 15th.
Correct, that would be the correct way would be, you would,
I would amend it to April 15th,
and vote on that.
And then we have,
and then I would move to approve with that said amendment.
if it passes. Yep, so first of all, let's vote on the April 15th. I'll second her motion to move to amend to April 15th. So, all in favor of amending to April 15th? That is Quincy, Elizabeth, Jerry, and Ray. All opposed? That's Shannon and I.
Now I move that we approve the item with the amendment to,
That is correct.
okay, that's it, I'll stop there.
I'll second.
So,
Moved by Elizabeth, seconded by Quincy. All in favor? Take it easy, Bruce. Okay, it's the same. Thank you.
Yep.
All opposed? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, guys. All right, staff mentor program, Lisa.
Greetings from the curriculum.
So I know my title says Director of Curriculum Instruction or Curriculum Assessment and Professional Development, but in addition to those three topics, there are a smattering of other topics that I am responsible for. And new teachers is one of them. Typically in Whitefish, well, I should say in the last 4 years, we have had, I'd say approximately 20 new teachers a year that come through our doors at a K-12. And so I wanted to lay out for you what is our mentoring program for those new teachers. So the first day we bring them together the week before our 2 days that they have to be there. So we bring them typically together for a full day session on a Thursday. And I have heard it described by one of them that it's like drinking from a fire hose. Because there is so much information that we need to share with them. We need to share with them information about technology. And so we have our director of technology come and do a whole session with them. And that's when they get their laptops. We have the school district secretary that comes and visits with them and discusses all things HR with them. We have our director of student services come and she talks about that whole world and how that impacts the students in their classroom.
We have WEA come in, we actually allow them time to talk with employees about the union. And then I also spend time talking with them about professional development, curriculum, and assessment. During that day, we also provide lunch for them, and we invite the administrators to come. And we have lunch with all the new staff members and the administrators. From there, we have assigned each, I should say, we paired up each new teacher with a mentor teacher, and I'm not responsible for that. The building principals do that. They assign the mentor teacher to the new teacher. My job is then to reach out to those mentors and say, that is awesome that you have agreed to be a mentor to this new teacher. This is what we expect of you in working with your new teachers. So we do compensate those mentors. And I think on the attachment I shared with you, we give them a curriculum rate, their stipend, and it boils down to about 13.5 hours over the course of a year that they spend working with that mentee. And during that time, we have this, and I inherited this book, and I shared this with you as well, this new teacher mentee handbook. I will agree that it needs to be updated. I just haven't gotten to it. It's one of those things that has been further down on the list, but there are a plethora of things for the mentor to discuss with the new teacher on here and in here. And during that time, they take the time to go through these things. The mentor also has a log that they have to log the time that they spend with that new teacher. And I won't give them that stipend until I have this log in my hands. So, because I want to make sure that they are in fact working with their new teacher for that time period. I also periodically reach out both to the new teachers and the mentors and say, hey, how's it going? Typically it's crickets. They're really busy and they oftentimes don't have time to visit with me. I know the principals also reach out because they're in the building all the time with those new teachers and mentors. But on occasion, I do hear from them, and if they tell me great things, wonderful. If they say, hey, I'm not hearing from my mentor, then I go to the building principal and say, can you help me with this? Or I don't know how to do this. I'll say to the building principal, hey, can you have your mentor reach out to the mentee and discuss this issue with them? And that seems to work pretty well for us at this point. Questions that you have about this process at all?
Yeah. All right.
Sure, go
When you
ahead,
say
Quincy.
New teachers, do you mean new hires to us? or
I
you
do
like
mean new
first
hires.
Brand new teachers, or all the same.
All
All
new
of them.
hires
Okay.
are considered new teachers in Whitefish School District.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you essentially audit the mentor time card?
Yes. I
On a
do.
regular basis, like,
I check in with them regularly, Rainey. There are some teachers who have turned in their mentor log to me already. There are some who have not yet.
And then do the mentors
Mhm.
get special training? Did you mention that? Like if they're.
They
like,
do
a-
not have
Get
special
trained on
training.
the leader. Mentor.
They do not have special training at this point, Quincy. No.
but they have an outline of what
Mhm.
is in the handbook.
What's
Yep,
They need to
yep.
cover.
Yep. And as I said, periodically I check in and say, have you discussed this with your mentee? Have you discussed this with their mentee? Mhm.
How long has it been in place?
Before I can't tell you that
That's great.
did Ryder start it? Dave, do you know? I just picked up the reins from there. And the other great thing is, at the end of the year, I ask mentees, what could we do better? And matter of fact, in this packet, there's a page called the nitty gritty. And that nitty gritty page is from one of our oh, not this year, last year, one of our mentees said, you know, it'd be really helpful. She drafted this whole list, and at the end of the year, she shared it with me. And she said, this would be really helpful for me. So I said, that is awesome, great. Those are the kind of things we want to hear. How can we make this an easier and a smoother transition for you?
So, a mentor has already turned in, already done their 13 hours to this point.
Most have not. I think I have 2, Jerry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So they're
March.
thinking that they don't need any more help for the rest of the year.
They have, because they still meet in their, the 2 who have turned them in are content area specialists. So they're still meeting in their PLCs together. They're still
So they're
working
still-
together. Yeah. They're just, I'd say they're just not spending extra outside time.
This is a question not necessarily about the mentor mentee, but just the new teacher orientation. We spent several hours last week discussing and reviewing our policies. Who goes over, especially as it relates to the board, like 1520 and 1700 policy with new hires for them to understand their communications options with labor management, all that stuff? Is that something since Adrian's coming and talking to them? Should you talk about that, or you, or is it both?
It's both. There's a plethora of issues.
Right, that's.
We try to
Who
touch
owns
on,
that one? Yeah.
and we really recommend anytime they have questions to reach out to their mentor, reach out to their union representative. We point them in the direction of where can you find the collective bargaining agreement. We help them understand those are the rules by which we coexist. Yeah.
You just find you have a lot of return mentors.
Doing multiple. I wouldn't say principals. Would you say you have a lot of return mentors? Not necessarily. It depends on the area, I think, right? There are lots of good teachers out there have been great mentors.
I enjoy that they can get paid for it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not much, but it's better than nothing. But I really felt strongly that I needed some sort of accountability. So yeah, this teacher log was key. Make sure that we had some accountability, that we really were ensuring that mentors were meeting with mentees and they were getting that extra guidance and support from them.
So how does this work?
Mhm.
What is this clicker for parking lot all about?
Oh, there's a
Everyone's laughing. I know.
there
There was an elementary. Why would you open the gate?
well, the high school, there's one section
Oh,
of the high school.
people.
Yeah, the high
Okay.
school people. This was a high school person. There was there is a section at the high school that you can't access without a clicker.
I was impressed with the thoroughness that I went through it, like, where do I find copy paper, where do I find, and I was like, these are really smart. Well, thought out, like, where am I gonna go to find all the things, like, where are the paper clips? And then, like, what do I do when I have a parent interaction for the first time, and how do I handle that, you know, or, so.
And it's been beneficial. Even we had a transfer, so someone from the elementary school went to the high school. We even gave that person a mentor, which was very valuable because the curriculum was very different, right? It was, and she needed that time to sit with that person and talk about, oh, I'm teaching at a whole different grade level. What does this look like? What do parent conferences look like? What do grades look like? Because they were very different at the elementary school than at the high school. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions for Lisa?
It's very thorough.
Yep. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
You bet. Thank you.
Preliminary budget discussion.
One page. per page. So it's not, it's all colored. So,
I got it here.
you guys do. So in front of you, there's two versions of a preliminary budget for the next school year. Okay, we have a side-by-side comparison. Both of those scenarios reflect a decrease in funding of about $180,000 due to lower enrollment. At the same time, they both assume a 3% inflationary increase in funding from the state. Okay, so I already plugged those numbers in there, hoping that the 3% inflationary increase will pass. Okay. But we have to take the lower enrollment into consideration. Okay. So then the scenario on the left assumes no additional levy for the general fund. And assumes that the STARS Act doesn't pass. Let's just assume for a moment. In this scenario, no increases for personnel would be possible, and a reduction of 2.0 FTEs, full-time equivalents, would be necessary.
Certified or not?
Certified.
Certified, okay.
Mhm. No, thank you for bringing that up. I should have said it. It was certified to FTE, okay? So let's just assume this doesn't pass. Then let's look at the right side of your screen. And let's assume that in this scenario, the new STARS Act legislature passes, providing additional $600,000 in funding. In this scenario, increases to personnel would be possible. Additionally, if a general fund levy of up to $100,000 were to be approved in May, it would further enhance the financial health of the general budget. So you may remember we did this side-by-side comparison in prior years as well. Because as we know, in legislative years, we don't know what proposals are going to pass and which won't. We can just hope that both the inflationary increase and the proposed STARS Act are going to pass. Okay.
See, and the money in,
Mhm.
where does federal money show up?
That is not part of the general fund.
Okay.
So this budget in front of you, Rainey, is just for the general fund, the main operating fund. And federal funding is in a different fund called the miscellaneous fund number 15. And let's not even start talking about potential decreases in federal fund. Let's just assume it's gonna stay the way it is.
That's a bad one.
Yeah.
Just for one comment on that, actually, there are some indicators in here that we do anticipate some reduction in Title I IDSB funding. And that's fairly typical. We see some fluctuation in those from year to year, so.
That's just due to the number of students who.
No, it's not, it's federal, counting on the poverty levels. within the
Poverty level.
community,
Oh, of course.
things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
So that works.
it is not due to the number of participating students,
Yes.
but it's more related to poverty. At the county, how the county assesses Whitefish boundaries.
So these are just some preliminary numbers, as we always have them, and as the legislature passes. And hopefully, all those things that we're waiting for will pass. And we will be successful in receiving those funds. I just wanted to show you what it could potentially be if at the last minute at the state capitol, somebody decided not to go along with it. Okay.
Tell me, the standout numbers in retirement bonus. Why those are off to the side with that.
So, okay, so those numbers to the side, such as the 13.9 million are just subtotals for those categories, so I can keep it straight in my head. Such as I know that salaries would add up to $13.9 million. That whole chunk, that whole section of that spreadsheet, and so on. So by looking at this, we can see that personnel expenses, which are, those are that are coming from the general fund, which is salaries, workers' compensation insurance, and health insurance, are almost 90%. So I just wanna, so I know how much I'm spending on each subcategory. They have no other meaning than that. You may notice that on the last line on the left hand, on the right hand side, and is the 8% inflation increase in the non-personal expenses. This is related to all our goods and services that are not people related. And even though when we look at what we're told either on TV or when you go and Google these numbers, what the inflationary rate is, or what the consumer price index is, it is much lower than 8%, but that's not what the reality is. We're seeing increases, and we have been seeing increases in consumables, equipment rentals, liability insurance, sometimes of up to or more than 10%. That is why I made the assumption on this sheet of 8%, crossing my fingers that it won't be more, but I want you to know why I did it, even though the inflation right now is certainly well below that. It's like going to Safeway. Nothing costs just 3% more. Things cost 30% more, right? And we've been experiencing it outside of the, labor costs. So I just want to be super conservative when budgeting for those other things. So as you can see, in both cases, we can balance the budget. It's always possible to balance the budget, but there are different things in play and different things that can or cannot happen depending on the circumstances. And we'll be talking, you're welcome, we'll be talking more about the budget during IBB. For those of you who sit on those IBB committees, you'll go deep into weeds in my spreadsheets.
And it's a good time.
Shannon's favorite.
You like to weed.
Appreciate that. Kind of our first look at the budget.
Yeah.
Yes,
I have one word. Oof.
yes.
I have one word to say. Oof.
Ooh. Pretty though. I like it side by side, like, so easy to look at.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to a general fund levy.
So, this is obviously related to the discussion we just had. Presented for the board's consideration is a high school general levy of up to $100,000 to be presented to the voters in May. If passed, this levy would help offset the rising cost of goods and services, including consumables, repairs and maintenance, equipment rental, liability insurance, audit services, curriculum, professional development, and others. The taxpayer impact of the increase is presented in the attachment. So, this proposal, for $100,000 levy is for the high school district only. The elementary district is already operating at 100% over base budget, and there is no room for a levy. And you can see the impact of the annual increase. So if it passed, the impact would be $5.14 approximately on a home, for a home assistance, $100,000 plus or minus.
That's per year, correct?
Probably.
That is per year, yes.
Thank you, Lucy. Thanks. Any clarifying questions for Lucy?
What, just a, more of a, what percent is a high school operating at for their?
Almost 100.
Oh,
So this levy will take it to.
We'll take it to the 100%, yes.
Is there any public comments? No? Back to the board for further discussion on.
I make a motion that we accept the proposal as presented.
I second it.
Moved by Shannon, second by Ray, all in favor? That is everybody. Thank you, Lucy. Thanks for all your hard work on that and on the budget. You?
Just like this,
Yep.
each second, okay.
You're fine. Moving next, 25-26 permissive levies.
This is a decrease.
Yes.
I know, look at this, and now we're saving.
So again, both of your attachments, okay, both of your attachments, this is what it looks like, we'll go over this sheet. Okay. This gets a little bit complicated, but nothing terrible. In the end, it's a decrease in levies, so that's a good thing. So presented for the board's consideration is an increase in permissive levies for the tuition fund and a corresponding decrease in levies for the general fund. This request is due to a new law passed during the 2023 legislative session, which impacts out-of-district tuition, out-of-district student tuition. Under this new law, a student's district of residence, so let's think about it now, student's district of residence owes tuition payment to the student's district of choice. So this would be a Whitefish student who wants to go to Columbia Falls, okay? That's the scenario. This cost will be paid out of the tuition fund. That's why we're proposing to increase those permissive levies in the tuition fund. Conversely, a district of choice collects tuition revenue from home districts, and this revenue is deposited into the general fund. In this scenario, it's a student from Kalispell district decides to attend in Whitefish. We collect revenue from Kalispell. This revenue gets deposited into the general fund, and all this really is reshuffling of taxpayer money. Okay, we have a tax payment going out of the tuition fund, but coming back to the general fund in form of lower taxes. Okay, so this spreadsheet that is in front of you, and the reason why The other funds are mentioned there, such as adult education, transportation, and building reserve, is because those are the other funds that are subject to permissive levies. We want to show the taxpayer that we're not making any changes in those funds. We're only talking about the tuition funds. So you can see that we're bringing in 156. Sorry, we're paying out $156,000 out of elementary tuition fund and 95 out of the high school tuition fund. But we will be bringing in 172,000 and 90,500 into the elementary and high school general funds respectively. Okay, so the net effect on the taxpayers as a whole will be minus 11,500, meaning it's a decrease or savings in taxes. Okay, you may ask, how do I know these numbers?
I wouldn't ask that.
I trust you,
I just
Lucy.
assume you do.
Trust me. I just, no, I didn't just. So this will affect 25-26 budget, but similar to our Crossroads tuition, for example, those payments are retroactive. So this, what I know for the numbers for 25-26 budget, I know what those numbers are approximately because it's based on this current year, school year attendance. And even though students constantly move and new come and some of them leave, we can have a good estimate of what those numbers are. And the advantage for Whitefish is that we have more out-of-district students coming in than we have kids going out to other districts. Hence the savings here. So even though it's just really moving taxpayer money, around, it's all due to this new legislation that passed 2 years ago, and we have to.
So the way I'm reading this, the way it's presented here, we couldn't exactly vote on that. We do need to change it. Because it says they proposed a decrease in permissive levies, but it
Oh, did I say
should
that?
actually say increase in permissive and then decrease in general, correct?
Okay, yes, then you know what, whatever I wrote in, yeah, that is my typo. It was supposed to say an increase in permissive levies. Yes,
Okay.
and that's what you're voting for. I just wanted to show the general fund impact on this because the tuition fund taken out of context of this new House bill wouldn't show the whole picture. Okay. So sorry about the typo. Yes, I asked for the boards to consider an increase in permissive levies for the tuition fund as presented.
And remind me, this is a permanent increase or unless we change it.
Correct. And the same is the general fund levies also permanent.
Yeah.
Unless the legislature changes.
Yes, the legislature said-
But right now, everything you vote on or the voters vote on is permanent.
Can I ask to clarify, what happens if a student, like you said, kids are moving around all the time? So what happens with that tuition, right, if you're here like a month and then you go back to your home district?
So you have to prorate.
Oh, it is
Right.
right, okay.
Yes, so great question, because yes. The fact that the student is here doesn't mean he or she will be attending for 180 days.
Right.
What if they attend for 49 days only? And then we will only pay or receive money for 49 days.
It's a lot of work.
It's, yes, and honestly, my part in this is not the most complicated. It's Amy Markowitz who has more work than I do because she's on the receiving end of all those forms from parents, all those phone calls, and she has to keep a spreadsheet going of these incoming and outgoing kids. So really it's 90% her and 10% me. I just run the numbers. The difficult and the, yeah, it's very, a lot of bureaucratic. Work.
So, but the taxpayers should still see a decrease.
Yes, that is correct.
Right. Yes, so there's a decrease in the general fund, but an increase in.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lucy. Any public comment?
Anybody awake?
Good job,
It's their
guys.
favorite part.
I know. That's like having a party over here. Is there, back to the board for any further discussion or motion?
Make a motion that we accept the recommendation as amended, as it should have been, which is to increase the permissive levy.
Don't we have to do that first? It's not like it's like.
Not, I don't think when it's a typo, we're not asking
Oh,
to
okay.
change from what the recommendation was, the recommendation just presented.
I'll second it.
Moved by Shannon, seconded by Rainey, all in favor? That is everybody. Thank you very much. Exciting. All right, next up, Dave, it's finally your turn.
That's it. I don't care.
So you gotta talk all night. Recommendations for hire.
I thought I successfully delegated it all.
You did, no, really close, really close.
Okay, so recommendation for hires. In front of you, we have some assistant coaches and book, long-term guest teachers, as well as some substitutes for your consideration.
Any clarifying comments? Any public comment? So we really get rolling. Great, back to the board. For a motion or.
I move we accept the recommendations for Hotwood as presented.
I'll second. Moved by Jerry, seconded by Elizabeth, all in favor? That is everybody. Thank you very much. All right, out of district student.
Okay, as we just discussed, we have students who are coming in as well, so we have out of district students that are recommended for approval. Let's see.
Any public comment on the numbers?
We don't know who they are, but they're numbers.
That's right. Maybe back to the board for a motion or comment.
Oh, we approve as presented. Second.
Moved by Kinsey, seconded by Jerry, all in favor? That is everybody. Thank you.
First.
Quincy.
Quincy.
Jerry. Sorry, Lucy. Sorry.
No.
I'm mumbling. Okay, up next is the superintendent contract.
Presented for the board's consideration is an extension of Mr. Mintz's contract through June 30th, 2028, effective July 1.
Any clarifying on that? Any public comments? Back to the board. I just wanted to mention one thing, and that was that we did make one change, which was under evaluation. And we changed it to quarterly, just for, so I think last year we kind of got in the question of like what some under the priorities, like what some of the verbiage meant. And this will give us a reason to get back together. And if there's any confusion or conversations that need to happen, it'll kind of gives us that reason to pull back in and get back together without making it feel like it's an unusual or. Yeah, it's not a one time, so, so going to quarterly, valuations, just that we have that in there, and, so, yeah, other than that, everything stayed the same. Any, comments or motions?
Make a motion that we approve superintendent contract extension.
Moved by Shannon, seconded by Rainey, all in favor? Is everybody, so Shannon and then Rainey, sorry.
Okay, no, thank you.
We should just have one person make every motion.
That's right, we should just make it standardized. All right, trustee announcement. All right, so kind of trying to go back old school, taking a page from my predecessor, going up to the 8 characteristics of effective school board. So starting with number 1, effective school boards commit to a vision of high expectations for student achievement and quality instruction and define clear goals toward that vision. In comparing district leadership with student achievement. And then just kind of put the bullet points that went with that, just something to kind of keep in mind as we're looking towards the future and what we're thinking about for the next school year. And so anyways, thought we should kind of start reviewing our 8 characteristics again and reminding ourselves of those, because I think they're super important and kind of are good the conference is a lot of light, vision. Yeah, good vision, and good light for us. So the other thing, any questions on that? And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, I know I brought it up a couple of times. But it's the 2-on-1 and just thinking about, no one's really said it. I think silence also speaks volumes. It's just going back to maybe monthly 2-on-1s for everybody. I think it's actually probably more beneficial for everyone's time and efficiency. If we gave it twice a month 2-on-1s, a real solid effort, but I don't know if it's worked or beneficial for everybody. So I know you guys schedule those with Dave and can figure out how that would work, but maybe looking instead of, going over the weekly schedule or what's going on, but more agenda focused. And any questions that way.
Big issues coming up.
Big issues coming up and agenda focused for the next business meeting or work session. So that sounds like a solid.
Well, I like how he puts out the weekly thing.
Yes, so but
That's
still
great.
continue,
Still,
but not for
our
your 2-on-1.
2-on-1s
Yeah.
would be
more.
It's nice to
Agenda.
see the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah, so it's
a
kind of
big
agenda.
issue.
Yeah.
Just kind of have an idea what's gonna come up and, yeah. Does that sound
Yeah,
good for everybody?
sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
We check one meeting off, or
Seven
7 meetings off your list.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Last meeting?
No.
I know, he'll be so sad.
I'll try to make some changes to those.
I get to miss you.
I'll make changes to the,
I
to
get
make sure that
Remember me?
they happen 1 week prior to the, or right prior to the next regular board.
Yeah, that was it. So, yeah, so any other trustee announcements?
I was gonna just share that, Jerry is gonna be standing in for me at the PD committee meeting that's coming up in April, because I have a conflict. And moving forward to next year, Jerry's gonna take over that committee for me.
Which committee is it?
Okay. Professional development.
Development, 3 times.
Thanks for being proactive.
Yeah. It was a wonderful time. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time on that.
That was great.
I know you loved it.
I did too. It just always seems to fall at a crazy time and have to get off work. There's just all sorts of life logistics that make it unnecessarily complicated.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's awesome. I do know you enjoyed that committee. I I know you enjoyed that
Yeah.
committee, so thank you very much for your time on that. Yeah, thanks for finding your replacement and all the things.
yes. Thanks to Jerry for taking it on.
Any other trustee announcements?
So are there any people running for the board opening?
Not yet. I don't have a single application.
That closes when, March?
It closes
25?
on Thursday, March 27th. March 27th. But and this is
This is typical.
typical.
Yeah.
Okay. Just that Rainy, we usually don't receive any applications until the last week.
When
And I
applied,
wish,
there weren't any applications.
you're right. So
And it
I'm
was
still
big.
hopeful that we won't end up with a 5-member board.
It's still an odd number.
Well, due to the population of our district, we need 7.
We are. I picked up a packet, I just haven't filled it out yet. The funny thing around here is the deadline always falls over spring break.
Oh,
It's the
yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
So, no, I just got my packet yesterday.
Thank you.
So 6, okay, we can have 6.
Can I say something?
I considered running for the board, had a meeting with Darcy and Elizabeth for an hour. I think we've got two very good board members right there, so I'm involved.
Thank you, Wally, that's very kind of you.
Very kind.
Well, thank you for attending our meeting.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Must be very interesting for members of the public.
Happy to have.
And thank you for listening to my budget.
Very flattering.
Any other trustee announcements? No, all right, Dave, take it away. Second time tonight, Dave.
All right, here we go. Yeah, 2 agenda items. That's great. WSD calendar, here we have, I was gonna say something, I'm not quite as engaging as Lucy in the budget, but we do have, looking at the district calendar, we don't have any activities at this time, not too many of them. There's fewer of those that are occurring, and you can see though that we've got quite a few meetings coming up, our interest-based bargaining coming up, and then we can also have our next work session is coming up soon, right? It's coming up right away, right? Because of the break. So the special board meeting for that. As you all know, so those are a few things coming up, and before I get too much further, of course, thank you for continuing with and extending that contract for me for the next 3 years, and I'm honored to serve this role for not only for the school district, but our community, and just working alongside everyone. It's just amazing. We have amazing teachers, we have staff, community, trustees, administrators. I so appreciate that opportunity to work alongside it. Here we go. We're going to jump into resignations. We have those in front of you. You can see those. And I'm going to talk a little bit about enrollment as well. We have 1905 is what our total number is now. 1940 to start the year. Not atypical for us to go down during the school year a little bit for enrollment. And we did that last year a little bit as well. But it's a little surprising the extent of it is this year. So we're going to see fluctuations in enrollment during the year, but a little bit more than we anticipated. And then you saw that reflected in the budget conversation. We're continuing to monitor those things. And but one thing we have seen in the past is at the end of the year, it looks very different at the beginning of the year. We can get people moving in or something like that. So it's really hard to predict based on these fluctuations, but we are seeing a little bit more fluctuation than typical. If you go down to the bottom, you can see 10 newly enrolled students and 14 then unenrolled just during this time from our last meeting. You can see where some of them are moving to, some in Flathead Valley, some coming to us from Flathead Valley as well, eastern part of the US. And again, you know, it never ceases to amaze me that the numbers, that fluctuation, numbers coming in and exiting, and it's been the case in the district for a long time. It continues to be there, and you can see that. And I don't think we're unusual. Just in the valley, we see that as well. Any questions related to the enrollment?
Do we have early high school graduation, like when kids graduate at the end of the first semester?
Yes, we have early graduation at high school, and that is one of the reasons we see some reductions. I don't know if that's the case here. We have to ask.
Drown, did we have very many like semester graduates?
We have a few,
Okay.
typically, I don't know exactly how many this year there were. But I would say probably in the realm of 2 to 5 is average.
So not like a, not very many. Pretty cool. I was just curious. You just don't really hear about it.
And I just have on that one where it says extracurricular only.
Yeah.
Does that count toward the enrollment though, if a student is just participating in?
Partial.
Partial, okay.
I'm trying to think if that extracurricular does it with very small.
Very
portion.
small, yes.
Yeah, and you can be partially, that's extracurricular only, but then you can be partially enrolled as well, but it has to be a certain amount of time for the school day.
Okay. So is this, for example, a homeschool kid who only wants to go to sports?
It could be, or it could be a private school.
Homeschool, or wants to do?
I have a general thing that I think fits in this area, and it's mostly just a renewal of, my, opposition to having resignations and retirements on this portion of the agenda. I remember when they were put there, and I was opposed to it then. I just want to bring it up. It's not something we can vote on at this point, but I believe wholeheartedly that it is against our constitutional duty to hire and fire all, having them here and not voting on it. Resignation,
It
because
should
we
be
do not vote on,
an action item.
and it used to be. It used to be part of the consent,
Yes,
Yes.
I remember that.
yeah.
And
And I remember and I could get into it, but I'm not gonna, the reasoning why they were put here, and I
Because
objected to it then, and I'm just
Okay.
renewing my.
Yeah, there was a reason, but I don't remember what was, Shannon, but is it,
It is my understanding, Jim, the superintendent can accept a resignation, and then therefore that is immediate.
yeah, because we don't resign people, we only hire and fire them.
I'm just saying, seems to me like it's not constitutional,
Constitutionally
and I'm 100% confidence based on the tardiness of this district that it's been run by the legal.
I can
I'm
run
still
by,
objected.
I can run by again though, if you like, or see if there's any new interpretation.
That'd be appreciated.
Okay.
So we vote whether they.
Right, because once you resign, you like resign immediately, and if you're hired, you can't be hired until the board approves it.
Right.
And if you're fired, you're technically not fired until the board says you're fired.
And it's,
Like,
and
call a special
it's
contract.
always a rubber stamp, but they used to be under consent.
They did, yeah.
And you could pull them out you could pull them out of consent agenda at the beginning of the meeting if there was a reason why you didn't want to or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I can't imagine a scenario under which that happened. It's just,
No,
we'd be in
you're gonna be
pedantic,
football coach
frankly,
forever.
but.
I can look into it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think other information too for us that we knew who was.
Yeah.
Who was designing.
That's why it's in this
Yeah.
spot now,
Right,
and it's been the
because-
interpretation now.
Because we don't vote on that.
I think we should.
But Shannon is asserting that we should, that it feels should that this is the pattern we've been following
Yeah,
based on
the-
recommendation.
Yeah, the legal.
Yeah. But I can look into it further, see if there's any new interpretation.
And it's not like we're gonna deny somebody resignation.
No, well, that's why.
Feels like, it
Right,
feels
that's-
constitutional.
I think it's just I think the way I interpret it anyway, when I read it, it's like, it's just education on, just like
Yeah.
enrollment is student enrollment, and then resignations and retirements are just good information for us to know as employers, like, yeah, so if it's a consent, and you don't see it. But there, I've been thinking, oh, wow, there's a lot of high school and the high school enrollment's not going down, the elementary school, you know, it's like, oh, this is interesting, just. So I like seeing it, I guess, if that's what,
Well, we always seen, just we've seen it in a different spot.
different place.
We've seen it in consent.
We used to vote on it. But yeah,
And
we
you have to
approved
vote
that
on
there would
consent.
be-
Gotcha.
That was
Okay.
the,
Oh, that was.
Or not.
it was where it used to
The
be.
resignations were in consent. That's why it was pulled out, because we don't have to vote.
Gotcha.
That is not why it was pulled out, but that's a good enough.
We'll go with it.
Okay,
We'll go with that.
Okay.
All right, now I've lost my place. I almost forgot Lucy. Lucy, anything else?
I'll make this shortly.
All right, Lucy, Director of Business.
Okay, open your attachments, please. And what do we see on page 1? Did you notice anything
Red
that
line.
A
stands
red
out?
one or?
No, the red line had been there.
That's been there. Oh, we noticed.
Look at the numbers, please.
Why was there such a jump between?
We got money, we got money.
Yes, rainy
That's right.
gets A+.
But
got paid.
The county
Like
paid us.
millions of dollars.
Yeah,
No,
No,
well.
the bond proceeds.
Oh, the
are
bond, yeah.
A-
Oh.
$36.2 million in fund 260
Yeah,
building.
yeah, I get. that.
That's
See,
where
it's
it lives now.
Didn't it come from Iron Horse deciding to get this thing?
No.
Good luck.
So that was really happy.
Yeah.
Putting this spreadsheet together.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then, so we have all the money for the construction, we already spent some of it, we have some of it. Some of the invoices such as for bond counselor or for S&P rating, the AA. All those services haven't been paid prior. So we had to wait for the bond proceeds, so we already spent a lot. About $200,000 out of the 36 million. So, but I thought it would make all of us happy. Once we start getting those tax payments from people, okay, so this is just the sale of the bond. But then every May and every November we'll be receiving interest on those bonds, right? And that revenue will go to fund 250 debt service, okay? So we will then zoom in on those as well. And that money will go there, and then from that, we will pay principal and interest. So 2 different funds will be affected by this one person. It's 250 and 260. But this was the event we were all waiting for since 2021. Or did we start in 2022, the whole facility, long range planning? 2022, I think it was. So it does take 3 years from the day we decide. So anyway, everything else, all the other pages, general fund, the other tax levied funds, all revenues and expenditures are what they should be for this time of the year. There's not much to report there, unless you have any specific questions.
No, I just had a question because I was thinking about it when Carrie was talking earlier. And maybe this is more of an Eric Harris question, but when we host a tournament like that, or when we host speech and debate, and we do have increased custodial services and that, costs and just materials, whatever. How does that get accounted for when we're hosting things like that? So the other schools pay you to come or?
Yeah, we do have a lot of revenue.
There's a revenue that comes in. Okay, that's what I was assuming that there was some kind of.
We have a lot of them actually coming, yes.
Okay, thanks.
you want to say something, Karen?
Yes.
Do you have an Excel spreadsheet too?
No, I just had a couple of numbers just in relation to, I was going to mention this earlier. We had a $61,000 gate over the 3 days. We had $34,000 in concessions. Of that, it was a $22,000 net on concessions. So a pretty high percentage
We
of
hiked
that.
up our prices with inflation.
So it was about $100,000 weekend or 3-day weekend there. And then that money goes towards taking care of our expenses first, so that we're back to, I would say, ground zero. And then the gate in particular is then distributed, the proceeds beyond that are distributed to the other schools to help offset their travel costs.
Okay, cool. Oh, thanks.
So when you say, if I might, when you say our expenses, would that be, for example, overtime for the janitorial staff, et cetera. That would be-
Correct.
that would be
Yes.
covered. Okay.
Yeah, game workers and.
Extra toilet paper.
I hope not for the paper. You know how expensive that is? And, you know, the custodial overtime was really just on Saturdays. Because even though school was closed on Thursday and Friday, the custodians work all year round.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
there was a regular pay, so in the whole scheme of things, compared to the numbers that Carrie just delivered, the overtime was really minimal. Thank you, that's really
Yeah.
interesting. It's money.
Yes. What people want.
And that's,
Now we'll be able to have them more easily.
that's right, I just wanna say.
That's what I was kind of circling, yeah.
Yeah, in the community, I was thinking about going out to dinner this weekend, I was like, actually, no, I will not.
Because.
Spaghetti. Oh, perfect. All right, on to the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Someday, one of these days, I'm always gonna say something, I just know it.
About what?
The consent agenda, public comment.
Is that- Did you already do the payroll? Or whatever that?
That's just the consent agenda.
Yes, consent agenda, that's what we're doing now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Yeah.
Is the stage depot $70,000, is that?
that is our ADA accessible stage for graduation.
$70,000.
Yes, yes.
We bought it.
So remember last year you attended graduation with us and there are stairs. So we needed an ADA accessible thing and this is what it is. And yes, it is very expensive. But that's what we will have this graduation.
Is this a rental or is it forever?
It's ownership,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
For one
yeah,
shot.
that's our own, yes,
Nice. I know it was a big,
yes.
it's big thing you've been looking for, so nice.
Yeah. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, great.
I will be approve the consent agenda.
I will second. Moved by Chrissy, seconded by Jerry, all in favor? Everybody. Thank you. One last motion.
Move we adjourn?
Second. Moved by Jerry, seconded by Quincy, all in favor? And it's everybody. Thank you all, thanks for coming. Thank you, Carrie, for your numbers at the end, that was
Yeah.
fun information.
Probably